It was easy and breezy for India in Chennai. What can we expect in Kanpur in the second and final test of their series against Bangladesh on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday? We're joined by Sanjay Manjrekar to build up to the second test. Thank you for your time, Sanjay. Uh,
Breezy in Chennai.
well, it was, as it turned out, it was quite
Yeah.
unusual weather
Yeah, Mr.
through that
Shastri
week.
also noted that you're right.
Yeah, but we can expect more normalcy as far as conditions, both overhead and surfaces, go in Kanpur. Let's start us off, Sanjay, by telling us what 11 you want to see in Kanpur.
I just want to get Kuldeep Yadav back in, and that means Akash is out of my playing 11, exactly the playing 11 that I had in mind for the first test. And the reason for that is Akash, even in the first inning, where there was so much more for the seam bowlers, bowled just 5 overs, and second innings, I think 6 overs. So 11 overs in total. So despite one of those rare Indian pitches where seamers had more in it than spinners, you had the third seamer bowling just 11 overs because there is so much quality in all the other bowlers that somebody like Akashdeep will always get underused. He'll have his time when India goes to Australia. I think he's a proper third or fourth seamer for India. And just that you've got to really try very hard and think of every possible way to make sure Kuldeep Yadav is in the playing 11. That's how you've got to think about Kuldeep Yadav.
Right. I take your point on Kuldeep, but if we focus on Akashdeep, if India are to go with two seamers, would you not want to see more of Akashdeep as a new bowler and in what would be more trying conditions this time?
See, I believe Akashdeep will get his chances overseas against Bangladesh, New Zealand. India has got a lot of options, and there is more sort of quality in spin. At some stage, Bumrah will rest, which means Akashdeep comes into the playing 11. But currently, India wants to win 2-0. And the most, the guarantee card for that is Jasprit Bumrah with the way he's bowling. And you want Bumrah to also sort of have fun. You want to play him. Mohammed Siraj needs to play because he's also, getting into the groove and he also wants some numbers to go with his efforts. So those two I would have in my playing 11. We'll wait for Akashdeep later. And at some point, also have a look at Yash Dayal. But Kuldeep Yadav, on the bench, to me, is almost like a travesty for the kind of performances that he's put.
Yeah, just touching up on Bumrah and Siraj, the fact that they didn't bowl much. I mean, between them, it was what 21 overs for Bumrah and 20 for Siraj. That that makes the decision easier, given that you're also considering workload management over a long test season.
Yes, and just the one test match, and there was a fair bit of gap before that. So workload, absolutely no issue, and that's why I believe Bumrah should be allowed to come in. And he's become such a fantastic bowler, but because there's so much cricket in all formats, and he plays all formats, it's going to be tough for him to create those wicket-taking records. So while you have Bumrah, use him. He's not tired. He's not overworked. Get him in and let him get those backful of wickets that he deserves.
All right, let's focus on the man you want to see now, Kuldeep Yadav. You called the England tests earlier this year the pinnacle of his career. It was a fantastic series for Kuldeep. It was also notable for being the first time he played more than two tests in a row for India. And he's been around for 7 years. He's going to be 30 in December. Is it almost unfortunate that a bowler of this pedigree can't even get regular game time in tests in India?
Yes, and to an extent, you know why. When you have somebody like Ashwin and Jadeja on a pitch that is not a ranked turner, and you don't need a third spin, and maybe you need a little more seam support. Like, for example, in Dharamshala, those are the kind of places where you want a bit of seam support. So Kuldeep Yadav, suffers as a result of that. But I mean, if you look at his record, it is just incredible for somebody who also made a major change in his fundamentals of bowling, his run up, the speed at which he bowled all his life, and then getting those kind of results, beating batters on defense. The ball is rushing through, and a rare talent. And even against the best spin playing side, you'll have three or four batters in the top 7 or 8 who will find Kuldeep Yadav a problem to deal with because he's slightly different and a guy who really turns the ball. So that is where he gets the variation, where he turns the ball big. And yeah, all these reasons, really.
All right, enough on the bowlers. Let's focus on the batters, and two in particular. Very different players, very different stages. But what is the significance of this test and the next few ahead for Virat Kohli and KL Rahul, both of whom are in almost desperate search for home test runs?
I have no issue, and I don't think anyone will have an issue with this. I mean, the selectors, the team management with Virat Kohli's returns in India. His returns overseas are going to be more valuable for India. And I keep going back to that series in South Africa, where he looked India's best player on that trip and reminded all of us that he's got a lot to offer in Test cricket in tough conditions because South Africa in that series had a very good pace attack. So Virat Kohli's value will be realized when India goes to Australia. So his record at home, the numbers may have dipped, but it's not an issue when you look at Indian cricket. So he continues to play, and he plays because you know that you'll need him in Australia. KL Rahul is somebody I'll keep a close eye on. Look at whether his inherent, trait of not getting into that top form, high confidence phase, whether he's able to, get there and keep that confidence intact and play freely like he did in the second innings of the last test. I think I'll watch that. And if you continue to see KL Rahul play in the fashion that he's done his 50 test matches, then there are many batters out there, especially when you're playing in India, who are knocking heavily on that door to get into the playing 11.
Yeah, one of them is already on the bench in Sarfaraz Khan. You've stated that this team management will back the players they've picked, but how much of a rope do you expect Rahul will be given with the presence of someone like Sarfaraz?
I'm sure there's somebody there in the team management and the selection committee who have a lot of regard for KL Rahul and he's come back into the playing 11 despite the kind of performances that he's had. The only thing that's going against KL Rahul is the number of test matches that he's played and an average of 34. So ideally, they should be looking at KL Rahul in this hopefully 2 innings in Kanpur and see whether anything's changing at all. And if you see KL Rahul in the same mold that we saw in the first innings of the last test, where he's circumspect despite his recent form, if that continues to afflict him, this uncertainty that you see when he bats, then maybe you start pondering on KL Rahul's long-term sort of batting and selection.
Yeah, I'd imagine the first thing KL Rahul is hoping for is that India do get 2 innings to bat and 2 full innings where he can get to bat as opposed to what happened in Chennai. But just speaking on conditions and what we can expect from Bangladesh with a more traditional pitch expected in Kanpur, does a more spin friendly surface mean we can expect much more of a fight from Bangladesh than what we saw in Chennai?
Yes, because the seamers bowled with a lot of heart in the first innings, but depth in quality and experience in the end, came through. And when there's nothing in the pitch, you found out how easy Mehdi Hassan was to play in the first innings, Shakib Al Hassan as well. India might see Kanpur is called the Green Park, Green Park Kanpur. So if you see the greenery that's there in the outfield, in the park, on the pitch, then more of the same that we saw in the last test.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you, Sanjay, for setting up the second test. Look forward to your company through this game on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday.